guys, it is Monday, October 28th, and it is day number 4 of Nightmareathon, so welcome back to my part 2 Nightmareathon vlog. And this morning I did get some reading done. I am now 75% through with The Sundown Motel by Simone St. James, and it has taken everything in me not to just finish this. I didn't want to just come back here and have it already completed. I wanted to give you guys another update, so I held back and I didn't finish it. So that took some serious restraint because I am absolutely loving this book. I don't want to give too much away because in my last vlog I did give a pretty good summary of the premise and what's going on in the book. So anything else I think would be kind of spoilery, but it does follow two different timelines, 1982 and 2017, and two young women in those two different timelines investigating these mysterious deaths of young women that happened in this small upstate New York town. And the events in both different timelines are kind of mirroring each other. They are very similar even though they're over 30 years apart. And I am hooked. I am addicted to this. I love it. If you can get your hands on this arc, I definitely would because it is so good. And now I want to read more by this author because I really like her writing style. It's very atmospheric and spooky and I'm very hooked. It is not a fast-paced thriller, but it's very intriguing. And now I'm over 60% done with the romance arc that I'm reading called Stud Muffin by Jiffy Kate. And this one still I am not loving. I'm probably going to give it about 3 stars, unfortunately. I know it has nothing to do with Nightmareathon, but that is just something I'm reading on the side. And today my husband ended up staying home from work just because I was in urgent care yesterday and I haven't been feeling that great. I'm not sick or anything. I just have an infection. So I just wanted some help with Avery because I'm on a couple different medications and one of them kind of makes me a little bit drowsy. And then it just so happens that Avery has developed some kind of rash on her arm and leg. They almost look like a sunburn, but she hasn't been in the sun. And we tried to get an appointment in our doctor's office, but they were all booked. So the advice nurse told us to go to urgent care. So we have an appointment, we're gonna go take her, so that's kind of where our day is right now. I don't know when I'm gonna come back and check in just because we have to take care of that and make sure she's all good. But once I get some reading done and have some things to share, I will come back and update you guys. Okay, so it's many hours later. It is after 6:30 and today has been such a long day. It is coming to an end and I am exhausted, to be honest, like mentally and physically just so wiped. I managed to film a couple of videos this afternoon when I had a little bit of time, and then Avery kind of fought her nap, which is very unusual for her. She ended up falling asleep in my arms on the couch, and so while she did that, I pulled out my Kindle and I finished The Sundown Motel by Simone St. James. And this one was so good. I really enjoyed this. I had never read this author before, and I was really pleased by her writing style. I was very engaged the whole time, and even though this was not a fast-paced thriller, I never felt bored, and I felt really immersed in the story the whole time. And I love dual timeline perspectives. That really is intriguing to me. I love when there's like a mystery from like 30 years ago and now in the current times we're trying to solve it. At times the two women, Carly and Vivian, really read similar. Their personalities and their voice didn't really seem different enough, and sometimes I got a little bit confused as to who I was reading about just because their experiences were so similar. But aside from that, I still really enjoyed it. I love spooky books like this, especially around Halloween. I'm usually not a huge fan of paranormal books, but ghost stories are my exception. I love a good spooky ghost story, and this one did it for me. I really enjoyed it. And to me, Simone St. James just did a really good job at setting the scene and making me feel like I was in that motel. And I ended up giving this one 4.5 stars. Now I think I'm going to pick up The Problem Child by Victoria Helen Stone. No, this one was not originally on my Nightmareathon TBR, but I'm kind of just in the mood to read it. I think I put this on my TBR for some other readathon or for October. I didn't get around to it this month, so I kind of just want to read it before the end of the month. I really do like Victoria Helen Stone's writing, and I've been kind of curious about the second installment to this Jane Doe series. So I'm kind of wanting to pick that one up over the other books on my TBR at the moment. So I might just indulge in that and do that. Not sure when I will update you guys next, but I'm definitely going to get some reading done tonight. And if I don't update later, I will see you guys in the morning. Okay, so it is day number 5 of Nightmareathon. It is about 1 p.m. and this is the first time I've had a chance to update you guys. Last night, Avery went to bed with a fever and she had one this morning. So I had to go to the pharmacy, pick up her prescription, and kind of just nursed her back to health. She hasn't been feeling very great and very clingy. So her and I just cuddled on the couch and watched some of her favorite shows. And while we were cuddling, I did read a little bit on my Kindle. Last night I started Problem Child by Victoria Helen Stone, and now I'm a little under 90% done, so I'm almost finished. It's a really quick read. It's only 260 something pages. And last night I went to bed, I was at 30%, so I've read about 60% today. And this one I had high hopes for because I absolutely loved the first book, Jane Doe. That was a revenge story about a self-proclaimed sociopath, so I had really high hopes for this one. We're following the same character, Jane, and like I said, she's a self-proclaimed sociopath, And this time she is with a stable boyfriend. He kind of wants to take their relationship to the next level, but she's not really ready for that. She likes to live her life on the edge and kind of get in trouble. And she hears that her long-lost niece is missing, a 16-year-old girl. And so she goes back to her hometown, which is a really bad, terrible area in the Midwest. And she's kind of brought back to her childhood as well as looking for her niece. And she's becoming her own detective to discover where her niece is. This book for me has been so slow. I feel like it's been really dragged out, especially trying to figure out where her niece is. I can see where the story is going, and I think there's going to be a third book in the series. But the middle part of this book has just been so boring. I think the first portion, like the first 25%, was pretty good, but ever since then the story has been really slow. So this one for me is a polar opposite of Jane Doe. It is so different in regard to how I feel when I'm reading it and my overall enjoyment. I haven't finished it yet, so I don't know all of my final thoughts, but right now I know it's definitely not more than a 3-star read. I'm just not loving it whatsoever. Then for the romance arc I'm reading, Stud Muffin, I think I'm like 85% done with it. I'm definitely going to finish it today. It is being published today, and I know my review has to go up within the next few days, so I'm going to finish that up today. I'm also not loving that one, so I'm not reading a bunch of good books today. So I'm definitely going to pick up one of my physical books on my TBR after I finish Problem Child. So once I finish that book, I will come back and update you guys and let you guys know what I end up choosing.
Okay, it's many hours later. It is 10:30 and I am so exhausted. I am ready to go to bed. Earlier, we had the live show for Thriller Talks After Dark on Jacqueline's channel. We had so much fun answering questions and discussing the book, and we also discussed the readathon in general and just talked about life, and we had a really good time. It ended up being almost 2 hours. I don't know how the time got away from us, but it was a really good time, and I'm really excited for next month's pick. And earlier today, I ended up finishing 2 books. I finished Problem Child by Victoria Helen Stone, and this one I gave 3 stars. I felt it was really slow and I didn't find it very fast-paced. Like I said in my last clip, I liked the first 25% and then I liked the last like 5% of the book. I could see how it's being set up for a full series, so I definitely think there's going to be a third book. It was kind of left on a cliffhanger, not exactly, but I definitely see how a third book will be published. So yeah, I gave it 3 stars. I definitely didn't love it. I think Jane Doe could have been left as a standalone, but I am intrigued enough to pick up the third book when it does come out. Then I also completed Stud Muffin by Jiffy Kate, and this one I also gave 3 stars. And then this evening, right before bed, I picked up The Stranger Inside by Lisa Unger, and I'm only 50 pages in, so I'm not very far in, but I'm so tired I couldn't read anymore tonight. And this is about a woman who is a stay-at-home mom, but she used to be a reporter. And when she was younger, I think like a teenager, she was one of the victims of a serial killer, but she was one of the only people who got away. And now a person has been murdered in a very similar manner. And so she's brought back into that past that she's tried to bury. And so right now the person has just been murdered, and our main character has discovered that it's in a similar manner as the serial killer. And I think she's pretty freaked out about it because she's been trying to forget about those memories. I'm enjoying it so far, but I think if I wasn't so tired, I probably would have been a little bit more engaged in the first 50 pages. So when I get some more reading in tomorrow, I will come back and update you then.
Good morning, guys. Welcome back to day number 6 of Nightmareathon. I cannot believe that it is the second to the last day of this readathon. I don't know where this week went. Right now it's about 10 o'clock. Avery's had her bottle and she's currently just watching a little bit of Baby Bum. So I'm on the couch and just hanging out with her. And when I woke up this morning, I read a little bit more of The Stranger Inside by Lisa Unger. And this one right now, I'm about 130, 150 pages into it, and it is nearly 400 pages, so it is super long for a thriller. And it took me a really long time to kind of figure out what was going on and to get into the author's writing style. Last night I kind of gave a brief synopsis of what the book is about, and it's still basically about what I had mentioned, but I'm getting a better handle on what's going on and the 2 different varying viewpoints. We're seeing through the perspective of Rain, who is our main character, and then an unknown person that we're seeing through. I think he is a killer or a stalker or something like that, and we've now figured out who that person is and how he relates to Rain. And he's kind of creepy, but you also have some sympathy for him as well because he's had a rough life. So far, I don't really know how I feel about it. It is kind of a dense book. Like, it's not a super easy read, but it's also not a super difficult read. It's a crime thriller for sure. That's kind of what I can tell. At first, when I read the synopsis, I thought it was going to be more of a domestic thriller, but I think it is more crime related. And right now, our main character, Rain, she is really invested in the current investigation, and she's starting to get back to her old ways of being an investigative journalist. So she was a stay-at-home mom for like a whole year, and now she's itching to get back into it, and this investigation is thrusting her into it just because it's related to what happened to her when she was a kid. And I'm kind of curious how it's all going to wrap up, but I don't really know the direction that this is taking. So I don't really know what the twists are going to be because I just have no idea where this story is going. I'm hoping today I can get that finished, probably later, just because it is a pretty long book. Other than that, I don't have a whole lot of plans today. But yeah, for now, I'm just going to hang out, get some more reading done. And when I have more progress done, I will come and update you guys. Good morning, Avery. What are you doing? She's watching some Baby Bum, which is basically like crack for kids. They absolutely love it. And she's just relaxing. Like I was saying yesterday, she has not been feeling that great. And it's really unlike her to just be cuddled up in a blanket and lay on the couch. She is usually up and about and running everywhere, but she's kind of just relaxing. So her and I are just going to snuggle and kind of just have a relaxing day and enjoy some of her favorite television. Maybe we'll watch like a Disney movie or something. I know she loves things with music, so I think that's probably what we'll be doing. Okay, so it's a few hours later and I just finished The Stranger Inside by Lisa Unger. And this was quite a long read. It was nearly 400 pages, but I ended up reading pretty quickly. The text is not too small in here. And this one, I'm kind of unsure of what I want to rate it. I did not love it. It took me a really long time to sort out what was going on in the story and to really get into Lisa Unger's writing style. From what I remember when I read some of my friends on Goodreads reviews, not everyone was really loving this book compared to some of her older titles. So I'm still curious to read more of her books. I just don't know if this one particularly was for me. I think I'm going to give it either 3 to 3.5 stars. I haven't really decided yet. There was like a twist at the end that was not super shocking, but I did find it interesting. I thought it was a possibility like earlier in the book and it ended up coming true. But other than that, there wasn't a lot of twists, and to me it kind of was a little bit lackluster. And I don't think it had to be nearly 400 pages. I think this story could have been wrapped up at around the 300 page mark. So definitely not a terrible book, but I didn't love it as much as some of the others I've read thus far during this readathon. I figured that book would take me most of the day to complete, but it's only 1 o'clock and I've already finished it. So that leaves me the rest of the day to pick up another book. I do have one other physical book on my TBR, but I'm kind of not in the mood to read that today because that is also about a serial killer called The Whisper Man. So I think I'm going to read that one tomorrow. So I think I will probably read either another book off of my shelves or a NetGalley read, so I kind of have to make that decision. I think I might want to read a domestic thriller just because that one was a crime thriller, and I think The Whisper Man is also a crime thriller. So I want to read something a little bit more domestic just to give me a little reprieve from the crime thrillers. So once I make a choice of what book I'm going to read and get some reading in, I will come back and update you guys.
Okay, so it's nearly 11, and the last time I checked in, I think it was about 1 p.m. and I had just finished up The Stranger Inside by Lisa Unger. And I was saying that I had all afternoon to start another book, and I didn't end up picking up another book until nearly 10 p.m. Earlier I mentioned I only had one more physical book left on my TBR, but I was completely wrong. I completely forgot about Not That I Could Tell by Jessica Strasser that I had on my TBR for purple on the cover. So I ended up picking up that one, and now I'm about 80 pages in. I wanted to get 100 pages read before the end of the evening, but I'm tired, so I think I'm just going to stop reading here. This is a domestic suspense about a group of women who all live in the same neighborhood, and they have some get together one evening where they have wine and they leave their kids at home, and by the next morning one of the women is missing along with her twins. So we're following the different women in the neighborhood and all of the lies and secrets. It turns out the women didn't know their friend who has the twins as well as they thought they did. And so like I said, I'm only 80 pages in, so I'm not very far. And I am enjoying it. I don't really have a lot of opinions yet, but I like it. So I will definitely be picking that back up tomorrow morning. And when I do, I will update you guys then.
Good morning, guys. Today is day number 7 of Nightmareathon. I can't believe today is the final day of the readathon. I've had so much fun doing these vlogs and doing all the challenges and co-hosting with my two friends Jacqueline and Kendra. It's just been a lot of fun, and I can't wait for us to do it next year. Definitely let me know if you guys ended up participating in this. I would love to hear all about it and all of the things that you ended up reading. So right now it's 9:30. I just got out of the shower, and earlier I just prepped all of my stuff for the butternut squash soup I'm making. So after I finish filming this clip, I'm gonna go film me making that. I'm hoping it tastes really good. I've never made a butternut squash soup before, so I looked at a few different recipes and I'm not following one in particular. I'm kind of just winging it, which is how I do every recipe, I feel like, so hopefully it turns out really good. My husband is going on a night flight tonight, so he's not leaving until 4:30 this afternoon, so I do have him home for the afternoon and the rest of this morning, which will be great. This morning when I wake up, I did pick up my book that I was reading last night, and last night I think I left off on page like 80, so I didn't get very far, but this morning I ended up getting to page 206 in Not That I Could Tell by Jessica Strasser, so I only have about 130 pages left. It's a fairly quick read. To me, it is definitely not a thriller or anything like that. It is more like women's fiction with a mysterious element, kind of like Leanne Moriarty or Sally Hepworth. Both of them kind of write those kind of books, and this one to me reads a lot like that. It's about a group of women who are all friends and they live in the same neighborhood, and one evening they get together, have some wine, and the next morning one of the 5 ladies is missing and her 2 twins are missing as well. And I think it's been over a week since she went missing and no one has any idea where she is, and everyone is kind of looking at the ex-husband and thinking there must have been domestic issues within the house. And we're following 2 of the friends who live on the block. We're following Clara. She is a stay-at-home mom. She has a couple of kids. She gave up her career to be a stay-at-home mom, and she thought that she was really close to the girl who disappeared, but she's starting to realize that she didn't know her friend as well as she thought she did. And then we're also following Izzy. She's not married, she's single, she works in radio, and she's been in love with her best friend for as long as she can remember, and he ended up marrying her little sister, and now they are pregnant with a baby, and she's pretty upset with her life in regard to that. And she started to befriend the ex-husband of the girl who's gone missing. Everyone is kind of looking down upon him, but she has kind of become his friend. That's where we're at right now. There hasn't been a lot that's gone on. It's not super fast paced like I said, so I'm hoping some things pick up so I feel more connected to the story. I just feel like 200 pages in, not a whole lot has happened. I do want to get to the bottom of what happened to this woman and where is she? Did she go of her own volition, or did someone take her, or something like that? So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with this book right now. I definitely will finish this today. I'm hoping I can pick up The Whisper Man after this, but we'll kind of see what time I finish this because I don't know if I'll have time for a whole extra novel. So yeah, when I make more progress in that book, I will come back and update you later. To start off the butternut squash soup, I added 2 tablespoons of butter to my pot, and I am just melting that before I add some of the vegetables. So I used like 5 stalks of celery that I chopped up, as well as 1 yellow onion chopped up that I usually buy pre-chopped. Just makes everything way easier because I hate chopping onions. And I'm just going to saute these up, and once they get a little bit translucent, then I will add my next ingredient. Then I'm adding 1 peeled and chopped up apple. I think it is a Honeycrisp apple, and I ended up adding like another 1 or 2 tablespoons of butter because it seemed a little bit dry, and I am just going to cook all of that up together, and once the apple gets a little bit soft, then I will add my more heartier vegetables. Then I added 1 cup of the Lighthouse apple cider. This is sold in the produce section, but you could use really any apple cider. Then 1 carton, which is 4 cups of chicken stock. And then I used 1 large butternut squash, which I peeled and chopped into pieces and took all the seeds out. And then I used about 4 or 5 carrots that I also peeled and chopped up. And then once I added all the veggies, I put the lid on it and turned it up to like a medium high and just left it by itself to kind of go to a boil and get all of the vegetables soft. Okay, so this is the soup finished. As you saw, I used my immersion blender to get it more smooth.
and we already taste tested it and it was absolutely delicious. The only seasonings I added were a little bit of salt and pepper. I don't think it needs much else just because all of the ingredients are pretty flavorful on their own. But yeah, this was a really easy soup and I would really recommend making it.
Okay, so it's a few hours later. It is now about 4:30 and my husband is about to leave for his night flight. So I wanted to make sure I did an update before he left because once he does, it'll just be Avery and me and we're going to be passing out Halloween candy and probably watching some kind of Halloween movie, maybe like Hocus Pocus. And then for what I've been reading, I did end up finishing the book I was reading this morning, and that is Not That I Could Tell You by Jessica Strasser. And this one read pretty quickly, but unfortunately for me, it fell kind of flat. It didn't have a lot of intrigue to it and not a lot of suspense for me, and I didn't find anything in here particularly shocking. And usually with these kind of women's fiction with a mystery twist, I want something shocking so it makes kind of the rest of the story worth it. But unfortunately for me, it kind of was a little lackluster. So I think I'm going to give it about 3 stars. I'm going to sit on it and kind of think about my rating. Definitely not a bad book by any means, but it's not one that I'm in love with. Then I ended up picking up my final book for this readathon, and that is The Whisper Man by Alex North. This follows 2 different perspectives. It follows this man who has, I think, a 6-year-old son, and the son is speaking to like imaginary friends. His wife just died and the son is really handling that poorly, and I think he has some psychological trauma, and the dad is seeing some very troublesome signs in his son, and he thinks he's seeing a monster outside of his window, and he talks to people that aren't there, and he just does things that are a little bit odd. And then the second perspective is a detective who is on a case where a young boy has gone missing, and it seems to have been in the same manner as other children that have gone missing in the past, and those are cases that he was working on. And this little boy apparently was taken by a man who is copycatting a serial killer called the Whisper Man, but the Whisper Man is behind bars, so there is no way that this boy could have been taken by him. So this detective goes back to the prison to talk to the Whisper Man and to try and get clues as to who could have taken this boy and is he still alive. And that's kind of where we are right now. I'm 111 pages in, and this is about 330-ish pages, so I'm about a third of the way through. I've heard from other people that this was not about directly the Whisper Man and what he was doing, so I'm not feeling disappointed in that regard, just because I was warned beforehand about that. I do find it intriguing, and I'm kind of curious to see where this story is going, so I'm hoping I can get this finished tonight and then update you guys later on my progress before I go to bed.
Okay, it's many hours later. It is after 9 o'clock and I just put Avery to bed. It was quite a long night with trick-or-treaters. Avery was not a fan, so she was a little bit fussy, but I did manage to finish The Whisper Man by Alex North. Did I enjoy this one? Yes. Did I love it? No. I don't think I loved it as much as some other people did. I ended up giving it 3.5 stars. It was really creepy at times, but it definitely was not a fast-paced read. I don't really know how to feel about it. I did enjoy it. I liked the writing style, and I would definitely read more by this author in the future, but I can't give it more than 3.5 stars. I enjoyed it, but I didn't love it. So that's the final book I'm going to be reading for the night marathon. I will come back tomorrow and do a whole wrap-up of all the books that I read and all the challenges I completed. So I will see you guys then.
Okay, so it is November 1st and Night Marathon ended last night, and I wanted to wrap up all of the books that I read for Night Marathon and all the challenges I completed, but I didn't want to do it last night just because I had to be quiet for Avery's sake, so I figured I would just hop on today and do all of that. I have this really cute spread in my bullet journal for Night Marathon. I just listed all of the prompts and all of the tentative books I wanted to read. And then over here, I actually listed the books I did read with my star rating, what challenge they completed, and then I filled in boxes for all the days that I ended up vlogging. And these are just a really fun way for me to keep track of the readathons I participate in, and they keep me really motivated to keep reading. And it's just really fun for me to fill these out. So I'm really happy with how this spread came out. For the readathon, I ended up reading 9 books that were thrillers, mysteries, horror. I ended up reading a couple other romance arcs, but I'm not going to talk about those here. The first book that I read was The Grown Up by Gillian Flynn. I gave this one 4 stars, and it counts for the challenge of reading a host recommendation. The next book I read is Girls Like Us by Christina Alger. I gave this 3.5 stars, and it counts for the challenge of reading a book about murder. The next book that I read is Last Summer by Carrie Lonsdale. I gave this 4 stars, and it also counts for the challenge of reading a host recommendation. The next book that I read is The Secrets She Keeps by Michael Robotham. I gave this 4 stars, and it counts for the challenge of reading a backlist title, and this was also our group read as well as our Thriller Talks After Dark pick for October. The next book that I read is The Sundown Motel by Simone St. James. I gave this book 4.5 stars, and it counts for the challenge of reading a paranormal book. The next book that I read is Problem Child by Victoria Helen Stone. I gave this 3 stars, and it does not count for any particular challenge. The next book that I read is The Stranger Inside by Lisa Unger. I gave this 3 stars, and it counts for the challenge of reading a 2019 release. The next book that I read is Not That I Could Tell by Jessica Strasser. I gave this 3 stars, and it counts for the challenge of reading a book with purple on the cover. The last book that I read is The Whisper Man by Alex North. I gave this 3.5 stars, and it counts for the challenge of reading a book about something you're afraid of. So those are all the 9 books that I read for the Night Marathon. I had so much fun co-hosting this with Kendra and Jacqueline. We really enjoyed being interactive on Instagram and doing photo challenges and read-ins, and we liked reposting all of your guys' photos and what you were reading this week. Let me know if you participated in this readathon or if you would love to see it come back next year. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys on my next one. Bye.